Boys and girls. So Stupid or Energy said we had to go live.
Yeah, she was fomenting rebellion amongst the side chat. So
yeah, so that's the only reason we're doing this.
And that was partly my fault.
No,
is that right?
We do this all the time.
Yeah, we started this whole old man thing. So yeah, we will start. We'll just start talking and look up and go. I guess we should start eventually.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Oh wow! Damn, I didn't expect that.
Sometimes it's shocking, the view of our own face.
Well, I clicked a button. I expected my video to be there because it's complicated. My life is so complicated. I don't know. Let's see. Now, what the hell? Full screen layout. Let's see. I want to add this to the screen. What am I doing? I don't know. Full screen layout. Okay. I want full screen layout. I want this. We're professionals. Wait a minute. That's not what I want. What the? What's going on, guys?
Scott, you deleted those nice websites in the chat there. What if I wanted to go on a date? It says find love.
Ooh.
Oh, they deleted 69XXX.
Yeah.
Maybe you could use your wife's computer.
Yeah.
So you're getting a little porn. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out how to use it. I haven't used Chrome to do this share thing for a long time, but apparently I'm having issues. Let's see. If I go to that puts me full screen, and I don't want that. I want something else. How about that? No, I don't want that either. I don't want any of these things. That's what I want.
Yeah, that would work.
Hey, okay.
That's entertainment.
Yeah. So the other night he was teaching Cindy Lincoln molecular biology. And actually he only spent about 10 minutes doing that. He spent the rest of the time bitching about us.
I missed this. I didn't know that this happened.
But anyway, there's a little clip I want you to listen to, and I just want to I want to hear what you think about this man's relationship with women. And it kind of goes to a biblical relationship with women, I think. But anyway, let's see if you can actually hear the audio.
You get defective genomes.
You're good.
So this is also why we believe human intelligence is decreasing, because very intelligent women are childless. 25% of them have no children. And there are a variety of reasons for that. One of them is something that's very innate in male and female relationships. The male wants to feel that he can provide, that he has something of value to give to the girl. And so he has to be on a higher social standing than the girl. If she's above him in social standing, which also means especially intelligence in our society.
Watch Cindy's face. She went off cam.
He will feel intimidated, and the girl will be also less likely to pick him. Whereas the gap between a male of high social standing and also high intelligence, he'll choose people beneath him. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the way that it happens. So you'll see these, I knew this doctor. She was attractive, very, very attractive, very intelligent, very accomplished. No guy wanted to date her. They were just intimidated away. And
that brings up a really good point.
Okay, that was it. So what do you think of that?
Okay, well, first of all, I mean, this is just like the really basic back of the envelope evolutionary psychology is what he's doing, which is super hilarious.
because
I will agree that evolutionary psychology, if you're going to scale like the different kinds of evolution that gets done, evolutionary psychology is sort of near the bottom. It's not all bad. It's not all trash, but there's a fair amount of trash that gets done as far as evolutionary psychology goes.
Well, my actual critique of that particular point of view is it's not really dealing with evolution, it's dealing with culture.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking about cultural norms and values there. That's a very short term.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, this is essentially how evolutionary psychologists will draw inferences from the fact that you might have certain parts of the population that won't necessarily reproduce and then have enough children that go into the next generation. And he's making like a really sort of rudimentary, basic, like a teenager level evolutionary psychology argument. Like this is like evolutionary, like, I mean,
there's so much to unpack there. There's also the kind of male. There's the kind of male that feels that he has to rescue a female, right? So you have to find a female that's in trouble.
It's utterly sexist. Yes, there's that part too.
Well, not only that, but there's something wrong with that male. He has low self-esteem. He feels that he has nothing else to offer, and he has to rescue her, right? Like,
right.
So I mean, there's that, and then there's the naturalistic fallacy that this is what happens, and this is why the genome is crumbling. Because more women are getting intelligent and they're getting, I mean, it's like, and then the other thing is he says, that smart women are choosing not to have children. So it's kind of their fault that we're getting dumber. But then he says only 25% of them choose not to have children. It's like, well, that isn't a majority. What the
so
fuck?
Funny.
What the fuck?
It says a lot about his train of thought, right?
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
And we all can see, geez, no wonder why you're single, Sal.
Exactly.
Never been married, and says a lot.
But it's like it's an evolutionary psychology argument that he's making. That's what's so funny about it. Like, it's trash evolutionary psychology that he's doing, and. Okay, I mean, I suppose if you just walk through the logic of using evolutionary psychology logic, it sort of makes sense. But it's exactly the kind of garbage that like so many people complain about for evolutionary psychology.
Jerry Coyne, for instance.
But he's making the argument, which is so funny.
Like, oh my god,
it's so stupid.
But then he's got At one point, he said that men like to be more intelligent than women, right? It's like, and he's got a woman sitting in his studio with him.
Yeah. That's
well, I mean,
and she turned her camera off. What did she do? Did she start cringing after she turned her camera off?
I just wonder. I just wonder what was going through her head while he was spouting all that.
She was having all kinds of flashbacks of Kent. I'm sure.
No kidding. Well,
and then the other thing is that he was supposedly teaching her molecular biology in this stream, right? So it's like there's just so many levels, Sal. So many levels that you fuck. I mean, talk about putting your foot in your mouth on live on camera.
Right. In so many ways.
Anyway, so then there's let's see. Okay, we got this video, Christian testimony. Faraday Christian versus Darwin. Now, yesterday he did another one called Part 1, Dr. Chris T. wrong about evolutionary biology being as good as electromagnetic theory. Which one would you like? There's clips for me.
Any of them. I watched a little bit this morning. It was pretty funny when I saw the description. I mean, it starts off with my name, and it's like, oh man, okay.
Well, there's nothing like that morning cup of coffee and some comedy.
That's what I did. I was eating a bagel and drinking coffee and watching Sal try. The clip that he shows of me, where like he cuts it off, where I just say yes, and then that's it, and he cuts everything out after it, was pretty great. Like, okay. Pick anything. I'm fine with whatever.
Well, then the other night he ran that little short clip of me again, where I was saying we were talking about fitness, and I was trying to explain fitness to him. And there was a whole context behind it. And he was saying that fitness had to be engineering marvels, or that, you know, the genome was better and better engineered, like there was a direction in evolution.
Right.
Well, then I said that, you know, it could be that getting dumber and dumber is better for our reproductive success. Right. That could be the case.
Yeah.
And he plays that clip over and over again, and he says, enough said. You know, obviously these atheists are all wrong. You know,
yeah. I mean, there's he tries to claim that there's something fundamentally wrong with the way biologists think about fitness, and
right.
he's completely wrong on that. It's a fundamental concept that makes a lot of sense and actually is very testable, and we certainly see evidence that supports our basic concept of fitness. And it's honestly, like, it's hard to imagine it not working any other way. Like, it's just that's the inference that Darwin came up with, that it's like, okay, it just makes sense. Like, there's no other way around it, that if there's some animal that has a certain genetic makeup that's well suited for a particular environment, which means it's going to survive and then also reproduce and have its genes make its way into the next generation, inevitably that means the next generation is going to be shifted in the overall population genetics that's going to be suited for that environment. It doesn't mean that it means that they're fitter or smarter or stronger, because it could be being weaker and stupider allows for more genes to get into the next generation. You can't take an engineering mindset to it. It's stupid.
It doesn't mean that it's going to be more complex or its genome is going to be bigger.
It doesn't mean that.
None of these things are correlated with fitness, right?
Absolutely not. Yes, that's right.
And he keeps saying that like that's some sort of a slam dunk.
Yeah, right. And that like there's something wrong with the way biologists define fitness, which is that, because we don't take into account that it means that it has to do with engineering or better, stronger structures or something like that. No, it's just.
Well, that's why the title of this is Sal Cordova, an uneducated hack, because no matter how many times we try to educate him on this, he just ignores us.
Right.
Like you tried to point out what what's his name, Coyne was saying about evolution, that article was about evolutionary biology, and he's still using it.
Right.
Or evolutionary psychology.
Right.
And he's still using that little clip.
Right.
And
because it's out of context and it sounds really bad.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't correct this man.
No.
Anyway, let's see what he's got to say here. We're at where are we at? Let me go here. I gotta find the right spot. Oh, nice little blue bar. I like it. Okay. I just have a few bookmarks on this one.
All right.
Christian Faith video channel. I'm Sal Cordova, and today I'm going to talk about Michael Faraday versus Charles Darwin, who was the greater.
I've got him up to 1.5, and he sounds like a normal person at 1.5. So let me know if this is too fast.
Scientist Michael Faraday was an extremely devout Christian. Darwin could be said to be an anti-Christian. Some of his writings were not very friendly.
Was he?
Nah.
Toward Christianity,
really.
Although he was somewhat, being an agnostic of faith.
Darwin struggled with publishing for like 30 years because of Christianity.
Sure. Right.
I don't think he was an
anti-Christian. There were much more staunch, naturalists and atheists at that time writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could say he wasn't totally hostile to the idea of God, but he did.
You might want to actually bring Sal's volume up a little.
One of his statements regarding the doctrine of eternal damnation.
Oh, that's all you can get.
Yep.
And I think some scholars have said that the problem of evil disturbed him, as it does, understandably, a lot of people. But I'm going to argue that evolutionary biology is better put in a religion department. It does not hold a place with real scientific disciplines like electromagnetic theory.
Okay, pause it real quick.
Electromagnetic theories.
Yeah, he loses all credibility right there. He's using this weird if I'm religious, you're religious kind of mentality that evangelicals love, and he's saying, well, I think evolution ought to be. Well, he's talking about Darwin for one thing, and that's history.
Yes.
And it has moved on since then, and if he thinks evolution belongs in the religion department, he is not credible in any shape or fashion.
Right.
Well,
his argument will go on to say that, physics and our understanding of electromagnetism has led to huge advancements in overall society and technology. Sure, that's not hard to argue against. I agree with that. And has evolution contributed those kinds of technological advancements? No, because it's a completely different kind of science. I mean, evolution it's providing enormous insight into our observations of biology and biogeography, history of life on Earth, and the makeup of human beings, as well as the rest of animals and plants. It provides insight into the origin of those things. And of course, I mean, I've got a lot I can say about this, and I don't know if you've got more of what he goes into, but I'll hold off. I guess.
The other thing is that evolution is becoming more very, very front and center when it comes to disease, human diseases, and medicine.
Absolutely.
And there is a historical lack of attention paid to evolution in cancer researchers. Right. And we're trying to turn that around. We're trying to bring modern evolutionary biology into medicine because it is so damn important.
Sure.
A while ago, I was reading about bone morphology and bone, basically the evolution of cartilages and bones. And fish happen to have more types of cartilage and bone than humans do. And there are some diseases in human bones that seem to indicate that they're carryovers from old fish cartilage problems. And and that kind of insight into medicine is all done through evolution. And so we're just at the very beginning of that field of evolution, of treating cancer as an evolving population and all of that.
Right.
And I don't know what the hell he's talking about. And then for understanding diversity in biology, I mean, almost everything we understand about animals now is because we're looking at that common descent.
Of course.
Common ancestors, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Comparative genetics, comparative morphology, understanding biodiversity and its overall location across the world. All of this only makes sense in evolution. And we're not trying to say that evolution is going to give us a cell phone, right? Of course, that's not going to happen. Like, that's stupid. It's just dumb. Like, no one's going to say that, like, evolution is not a real science because we didn't get some smart gadget out of evolution.
Well, now that may not be the case in 20 years because they have applied evolutionary concepts to AI.
Yes.
And they're coming up with self-evolving artificial intelligence.
That, as well as neural nets, and then also a lot of molecular technology, the way that we go about designing certain new receptors and which it's the only things that we're doing is we're applying principles of artificial selection. We take a receptor and then we just provide mutation to it, or just let it naturally mutate, but it's a little easier if you just cause it to mutate. Then you go through and you just look to see, okay, well, which of these mutants has a little bit more of the function that we want than others. And then you do this again and again and again, and you're just applying artificial selection, the same thing that Darwin talked about in The Origin of Species. And we're applying that today, right? And it's that basic logical inference that gets applied. And now we can design, quote unquote, but it's not really designing. It's just principles of artificial selection being applied to mutants and then selecting the few mutants that fit a little bit more of the function that we're looking for, and then applying more mutation and doing it again and again and again. And it's developed whole new categories of molecular technology that I use in my lab for doing basic neuroscience. And a lot of labs do this now. And it's artificial selection. It's the same basic principles that Darwin outlined. So, but this isn't science. Okay.
No.
Sure, Sal.
And he knows. I think he doubles down on this stuff a little bit. We'll see what I got bookmarked.
I don't think
there's another one.
Knows.
That theory is confirmed every day. Anytime you turn on a light switch, anytime you run a motor, anytime you run a generator, anytime you use a wireless device, especially when you use a wireless device, that confirms the theory. That's why it's believed. That's why it's accepted. That's why.
Anytime we have a resistant crop, basically a crop antibiotic resistant.
Antibiotic resistance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Sure.
Biology works every time you breathe, right?
Yeah.
Every time you breathe, Sal. So checkmate. Sorry, more times.
Okay, he says something kind of cool here that wokey ideology.
Why it's valued. That's why it contributes to society, which is more than I could say for evolutionary theory. Dr. Chris Thompson, my opponent in the debate, tried to say, oh, it is just as good because we have so many departments of evolutionary biology in the universities. I'm sorry, but I mean, does this justify that we have so many departments of intersectionality and all these crazy philosophies and goodness, all this wokey ideology that didn't exist? Does that somehow validate
Wokey ideology.
Wokey
ideology? Like Chewbacca?
Are you one of those
out there?
Yeah, are you one of those wokey professors?
Wokey. I've never heard it called wokey. I've always heard it called woke.
Yeah, there's a. Have you
I
heard that new dance, the wokey pokey? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we do the hokey pokey at Virginia Tech. No, that comment was so stupid. And all right, yes, I did say what I was saying is that I was responding to Jerry Coyne's quote that he always likes to put, that evolutionary biology is, at the bottom of the barrel, and it's no different than phrenology or something along those lines. And my point was, like, there aren't departments of phrenology, right? You're not going to go to any university and find that, but you can go to universities and see groups and even departments that focus specifically on evolutionary biology. I graduated from a program of ecology, ethology, and evolution at the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. Now, after I left, they did a reorganization, and they kind of combined a whole bunch of these separate departments into one mega department of biological sciences. But there's departments and programs and concentrations in evolutionary biology across the United States and across the world, and you're not going to find that in other departments or you're not going to find departments dedicated to phrenology or, for instance, creationism for sure. I put creationism right along phrenology or flat earthism, right? It's basically all the same crap. They all use the same lapses of logic, and it's and then that's not science. That is theology for sure. Yeah.
Wokey. Anyway, social studies fit in evolution.
Wokey.
Wokey.
Philosophy. Wokey ideology. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, whatever, man. That's your opinion.
That's like your opinion.
Let's see what he says next. We'll see. I wonder if I can
it that this is argumentum ad populum. Just that because an idea is believed, therefore it's true or it's good. That's not true. That's terrible. That is not science. Science rests on experimental evidence, on observations, repeatability.
Yep, it does.
You're just digging yourself a hole, Sal.
On the practical level, how does it change everyday life? How does it change society?
No.
How does it improve the human condition? Evolutionary biology.
Right. Science obviously is not a science only if it changes everyday life on like a regular basis.
Right.
Like, that's not how that works. Like, for instance, we have departments of history, and departments of history, of course, do important historical science. And honestly, I would say evolutionary biology is kind of a bridge of biological sciences and history. Well, of course, there's geology in there and chemistry and all those other things, but it's a historical science. It is trying to draw inference of things that happened in the past. So it actually does share a lot with history. Now, does departments of history constantly are they inventing cell phones and cars? No, obviously not. They're doing historical science, and it's important work, and it's the only way that we can learn about the history of human beings or recent history and archaeology and that kind of thing. Evolutionary biology shares some features that are similar to that. And so does creationism, but of course, creationism is willing to allow non-natural magic to explain away things that are inconvenient, to explain away evidence.
Yeah, what they do is they create a placeholder that does this and does that we can't explain, and they just call it God or the intelligent designer.
That's right.
And
he seems
that's
to
not
think,
science.
Right. And he seems to think that, okay, I can't explain, say, why dinosaurs weren't on the ark, or I can't explain, the common features between chimpanzees and humans on the genetic morphological level, a lot of similarities. So I'm just going to argue, well, okay, well, I will concede I don't know that, but it's probably miracles. But you evolutionists, you can't explain the origin of protein families. Well, those are events that were billions of years old. We have good models of understanding how these things are related to each other. And there's hundreds of papers going through each protein family talking about how we can infer that some of the relationships between the different members within the family, how they may have originated over those billions of years. But of course, we don't have a fossil record that goes back billions of years for molecular stuff, because that doesn't fossilize. So the best that we can do is inferences. So he's just, and he's trying to say that our lack of our complete understanding of events, molecular events that occurred billions of years ago, is similar to the fact that he can't explain why there's a fossil record at all, or why genetic similarities between chimpanzees and humans, and then inferences between, say, rodents and humans, or say the way marsupial genetics figures into this whole picture, where I talked to him for about 40 minutes of that. He can't explain any of that, and he just says it's a miracle. We're not doing that, right? So,
well,
yeah.
I mean, I could insist that God created the universe in 1800 and that God created the Constitution.
Sure.
Because you can't tell me where they got the ink to write that out back in 70s, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. And we should stop looking for the ink, and we should stop thinking about the mechanism. That we should stop looking at the historicity of the Constitution and the cultural milieu that led to its creation back in the 1700s, because there was no universe in the 1700s. It was created in 1800, right? The universe is what, 222 years old now.
Yeah, only 222 years old. Yeah,
it's an old universe.
Yeah, pretty silly shit.
You don't see humans living to 222.
Yeah.
Well, we used to, according to Sal.
Well, yeah,
right.
That's true.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is also stupid.
Okay.
He's done none of that. I would argue even Darwin has affected science negatively. His theory of so-called natural selection is now falling apart.
Okay.
And the basic definition.
Is it really, Sal?
Right.
Is it really?
Yeah, we get to take Sal's pronouncement that it's falling apart. Okay.
Yeah, he's sitting there in his mom's house with Fox News running in the background, and his diploma's up on the fireplace because he can't. That's the only thing he remembers about his college education is those diplomas. And we're supposed to take his word against all of evolutionary biology. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to go ahead here to information on so many levels. I don't know what this.
Look at all the departments of evolutionary biology. That does not make a good theory. Yet, in contrast, electromagnetic theory has confirmation on so many levels. Every electronic device that works is confirmation the theory is a good one. We wouldn't have society as we know it today without electromagnetic theory. That's why I would say that it takes precedence. And, the thumbnail is of a pecking order of chickens, and you'll hear me quote that in this exchange.
Now, why is he so hot to trot for this topic or whatever?
Oh, because of this, this clip.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Their level. So the first question I'll ask, I quoted Dr. Coyne, who wrote the book Why Evolution is True. He said, in science's pecking order, evolutionary biology lurks somewhere near the bottom, far closer to the pseudoscience of phrenology than to physics. And whether that's its intended meaning or not, I'd say I would agree with that on face value. Do you think that evolutionary biology holds a place along with theories like electromagnetic theory and physics?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all he plays.
No, he cuts it off.
What?
Yeah.
I went on for like another minute or two explaining it, and we had a conversation, but he cuts it off at, yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't that more like absolutely, comma?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep.
Where you have to explain to him that the article is about evolutionary psychology and that Jerry Coyne was shooting his mouth off, basically.
Right.
And Jerry Coyne and Michael Lynch and a few others love to shoot their mouth off.
Sure. Yeah. And, he absolutely puts his foot in his mouth a lot, because I don't think that he's paying attention to the fact that when you write a sentence like this, there are people out there like Sal who are operating from bad faith, who will extract that sentence and then put it at the beginning of their creationist talks when they talk to their fans, and make it sound like, oh, well, evolutionary biologists, famous ones like Jerry Coyne, they all agree that evolution is at the bottom of the pecking order, along with phrenology.
Which is why Jerry Coyne wrote a book called Why Evolution is True.
Yes. And exactly. I know. I love that too. Because Sal, but the thing is, Sal, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He will take little bits of whatever anyone says, especially if they're more and more famous, and take it out of context and pretend that this means that all of biology thinks that like evolution is at the bottom of the pecking order, which is
Sal
totally
is
not
a
true.
bit of a sleaze that way.
But then he'll talk out of the other side of his mouth, and then
Yeah.
also slag Jerry Coyne and say like, well, the book Evolution is True. Well, you're wrong, Jerry Coyne. He even does this in this presentation where he also, so he's basically putting a quote from Jerry Coyne on a pedestal and then also slamming Jerry Coyne at the same time. And yeah, it's just hypocritical, completely hypocritical.
Well, he does something interesting with this article on Faraday a little later on. Without Faraday, we wouldn't have refrigerator magnets. He was very.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. That if Faraday hadn't come up with his description of magnetism, that we wouldn't
Somebody
have
else
magnets.
would.
Yeah, like I think people kind of knew that there was magnetic type stuff before Faraday. Right. He's just the one who provided the explanation for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm just hoping to piss Sal off by just giving Faraday credit for refrigerator magnets and nothing else. Anyway, he says stuff about and it's probably in one of these clips here, but he'll talk about how electrical engineering, oh my God, we were in such pain when we were learning electrical engineering. I was an electrical engineer major in 1974, and we were not in pain. We loved our fucking engineering, and we loved our mathematics, and we loved it all. And we used to wear our TI-59 calculators on our belts like they were swords, and we were into being engineers. And this guy somehow managed to get an engineering degree, and he hates science. I mean, he talks about how, I'm sorry about this nerdy stuff, but we gotta slug our way through it. It's like there isn't anybody that's really committed to their field that feels that way. I mean, I don't slug my way through molecular biology. I love it. I mean, it's like eating pudding for me or cake.
Right.
He does that over and over again, and it kind of makes me wonder if he ever really cared about science at all. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. No, he wants to. He's making a theological argument, and I mean, if I had to psychoanalyze Sal a bit, I think that he knows that the creationist argument is. He wants to believe in the religion. Okay, let me back up a little bit. He wants to believe in the religion, but he also knows that in order to be a fundamentalist, that there's a lot of garbage. And so I think he invests so much time into trying to debunk evolution to sort of confirm for himself that, yes, it is true. I do believe in these things. And I guess I can put my doubts at rest. And because evolution can't explain the origin of protein orchard families, his argument, so I think, I don't know. I'm psychoanalyzing a little too much, but
I'm glad you brought that up, because my psychoanalysis is he's fucking nuts.
Well, he did a video one day on Faraday. He did this whole thing on Faraday and on you, and then he did a video the next day, and it was almost like a repeat of what he did the day before. And I started thinking, is this guy okay? I mean, are you okay? I just started wondering, he's really got it up his butt about this. Faraday is so great and evolution is so bad. And
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just not sure. But yeah, there's some other interesting little things there. I don't know what I got at 18, but let's.
Oh, gargoyle! Thank you.
Gargoyle.
I got so excited.
Oh,
To
I thought
to
this was
refute Dr.
amazing. You
Chris.
did like 2
I need to
minutes
turn
where
on
he
the
was
sound.
muted. I
Forgot again.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
he probably said a lot of really profound things during that.
He
time.
no, he yeah, it was when he came back from talking about me with that clip that he showed, and then he
Right.
went on for like 2 minutes with the mic off. And okay, I was tickled with that too, especially since he was probably slagging me the whole time. But
Right.
I do have to. I mean, I've done these streams enough as well
Yeah,
to know
me
that
too.
audio sometimes gets screwed up, so I can't fault him too much.
No.
But I did find it a little bit amusing that he must have been slagging me the whole time. And
Yeah, I think we
but it was
should.
all on mute.
I think we should create some dialogue for that, and then play it.
Oh yeah.
I don't have time for that.
I know. Me neither. Okay, let's see. I'm at 2123, and I didn't label this, so I'm not.
And the eye was badly designed because of a quote unquote backward wired retina.
Oh,
And he wrote the book Why Evolution is True. He has since been embarrassed by the physics community that said, wow, what they call a bug is actually not, it is a feature. It is incredible design that enables waveguides. It's unbelievable. And why is this the disconnect between physicists and evolutionary biologists? That's because physicists actually do real science.
okay. So anyway,
Us. He said us physicists.
Us.
yeah.
But
So-
I thought he was a molecular biologist. He's called himself that
I
before.
know, yeah. I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. The whole problem with basically the design of the eye, I mean, it's kind of glued together. And there was, if you Google this, there are all sorts of creationism articles about how they found out now that the eye being wired that way actually makes the eye better.
Mhm.
And basically they're talking about other features of the retina and the eye and our visual process. And then they talk about how the brain is really good at covering all that crap up, right? Like we just and they go on and on. But what it doesn't say is that physics found that out. I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, what he's referring to is a creationist narrative that answers in Genesis and ICR and a whole bunch of others put together, because they're really butthurt about this thing where the eye is pretty fucked up. Actually.
That it's inverted. Yes. That the vertebrate eye, you have the cones and the rods at the back of the eye.
Yeah.
And then you've got all this processing of horizontal cells, bipolar cells, amacrine cells in between. And then on top of that, you have all these retinal ganglion cells. And none of those are photosensitive, except for the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, which are super fascinating in their own right. But the rods and the cones, they're in the back of the eye, the back of the retina. And the light has to pass through all that stuff. And he was talking about they act as sort of like light filters to channel down the light. And it's true that there appears to be some of that channeling, but it's still a mess on the surface. It still means that we have what's called the blind spot, where all those axons come off across the surface of the eye, and they have to be gathered into where the optic nerve is behind where the eye is. And then all of a sudden you have a spot where there are no rods and cones, because you have to have some part of the cable to come out. And it works. Our brain fills in that spot with just blank information for the most part, just kind of filling it in so we don't actually see it. But you can see that there is a blind spot. And so, of course, it's not perfect. It works, though, right? Yeah. And it's fine. It is what it is. It works pretty well, obviously. But an engineer probably would not design it that way. It's Rube Goldbergian for sure.
Yeah. So if you Google was the eye badly designed because of the backward wired retina, you'll find the first link is ICR, second link is Answers in Genesis, the fourth link is Evolution is a Myth, and then we have the Conversation, which is it just goes on and on and on. It's just nothing but they're obviously butthurt.
So evolutionary biologists have pointed out that the cephalopod retina is also quite advanced. but that their orientation is actually with the rods and the cones, or at least their photoreceptors. They're pointed, they get the light right away. So there's no attunement of light. There's no loss of light because they have to pass through a bunch of cells in order to get to those photoreceptors.
Let's see, Andrew Cumming. The question: would it be accurate to say that the bad design argument should be framed as suboptimal design thing? So it didn't have to be that way. It could have been different.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that it obviously works, right? We all, those of us who have eyes, we appreciate the fact that we have eyes, and we know that they work quite well.
Well, do you know why it works? Because of natural selection.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I still think that even though it's old now, but I think that it's in Blind Watchmaker from Dawkins that walks through the various steps that you can get to getting a vertebrate eye. And it's a very persuasive argument to explain how you can come about with a vertebrate eye. It might be Climbing Mountain Probable, but I think it's Blind Watchmaker. Yeah. Anyway, I've got it on my shelf. Okay. That's why I'm looking.
Okay, now we're going to go on to the Protein Orchard, which is a burr in my bonnet, or a bee in my bonnet.
Bee in your bonnet. A burr in your butt.
Burr in my butt, bee in my bonnet. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I got that. Got my metaphors right. Straighten them out.
This is on brutal display when I talked about the Protein Orchard and the origin, the ancestors of all the major protein families. They don't have a common ancestor. So where did they come from? I asked the question in a debate almost 2 months ago, and they just kind of evaded, didn't really admit they didn't know, that they don't have evidence, and maybe they'll never know. So if you're going to accept something as what you believe, and you can't.
Okay. So here's the comment I have. The reason why everybody just their mouth drops open when he brings up the Protein Orchard is because it is so goddamn ignorant.
Right.
That nobody can understand why he's bringing it up, because every model of basically the first prebiotic cells would include numerous small proteins and RNAs.
Right.
And there is no problem at all for that. There is no common ancestor for proteins, and everybody agrees. Right. He agrees. So why does he keep bringing it up?
I don't know. It's this weird straw man. And I've explained to him like that no one thinks that you have to have a common ancestor for all proteins, that all proteins arose from a single protein. Like it doesn't work that way. And well, there's no reason for us to think that that was how it worked, right? A prebiotic soup or clay acting as some sort of substrate or the RNA world hypothesis. All of it is that you have this mix of a bunch of things that are sort of randomly coming together, and then eventually you're going to have something where there's something that replicates, and then it makes more copies of itself, but it uses the stuff in the environment that's also doing similar things, and it's a mix of stuff. And we know that you can get this mix, like we've gotten to that part. How precisely it happened 4 billion or 3 billion years ago, right? Like we don't have that part down, obviously, because no one was there, and we can only infer, and it's hard. And I quoted him from a really nice paper that was talking about the last universal common ancestor, a nice quote that with gene transfer and horizontal gene transfer, gene duplication, that all we have now are the genomes as they are today. And it's challenging to try to piece together what that last common ancestor looked like on the molecular level. But here's what we can say and what's possible. And I'm fine with that. And I don't see that as religion. I don't see it as a faith statement, as he's so fond of putting it. It's just a model, and it's something that's active research, and it's the edge of our knowledge at this moment, just as quantum mechanics is the edge of the knowledge for physics. Right? In every single field, chemistry also has an edge of its knowledge where it's active research.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
And like for collagen, for instance, what we can do is we can look at prokaryotes now, because we know that prokaryotes are not our recent ancestor, right? And we can find homologs of collagen and actin in prokaryotes, and we can make some inferences about what parts basically existed in ancient proteins, and we can look at how prokaryotes use some of these domains today. And anyway, there isn't a single protein that you can't Google the evolution of collagen, the evolution of actin, the evolution of topoisomerase, all of those, that you will not find dozens of papers that have very, very interesting homologs in prokaryotes.
Yeah, that's right.
Like his nuclear pore signal, that basically the signal that tells you to put the protein back into the nucleus. Okay, those things exist in prokaryotes, and they have an entirely different function. And we found homologs, and everything that I have Googled, I have found tons of really interesting knowledge about that, and interesting homologs. And so there was an event somewhere in abiogenesis that involved encapsulation of groups, right, of these biomolecules. And that encapsulation would necessarily have encapsulated hundreds of thousands of different types of compounds. And that's why it is not a problem for evolutionary biology. And Sal, will you just shut the fuck up? You're making an ass of yourself every time you say it. I mean, really.
The question, when you asked, why does he keep bringing that up? For me, it's a pretty easy question to answer. I mean, he thinks it's a gotcha question.
Yeah, he does.
And the man is just so desperate.
Because he's so ignorant.
To have any evidence, anything to disprove evolution, anything along those lines. I mean, you look at his history. He goes all the way back to his early days in the university. He almost got thrown out for doing this shit. So the man is just absolutely desperate. It's just, it's so easy to see, right?
When he talks about protein orchards, I think about driving out into the countryside and stopping at some guy's orchard and wondering if we pick it ourselves, will we get a big discount? And
peaches.
It's just, say what?
I was thinking
of peaches. Oh, I was thinking of peaches. Although I thought a protein orchard was just
you pick proteins.
It's a great idea. Yeah,
you could get a collagen and
get a discount on
potassium ion channel.
Make some jams and jellies and maybe a pie topping or two.
Like Mom used to make a potassium ion channel.
Exactly. Yeah. Grandma had the best recipe.
Yeah,
potassium ion channels.
Yeah. But your point, it applies to almost all of these orchard families, the protein families. It's same with the potassium ion channel. Prokaryotes and even viruses have certain kinds of potassium ion channels that we know share homology. Like they're very similar to elements of the potassium ion channels that we find in vertebrates. And it's in fact like some of in my research when I was preparing that the thing where I was comparing potassium ion channels and marsupials to mammals when my conversation with Sal a few weeks ago now. I was also looking at some of the origins of potassium ion channels, and that it's some of the speculation is that it may have actually originated in viruses. So I mean, it's not stuff that I work on. Like I have to, if I ever want to spend the time in investigating it, I can explore it a little bit more. But at least I know that the people who are experts in that and they're working on it, to me, it seems like, okay, some of this makes sense. That 4 billion years ago, you would have these, single cell organelles and as cells that are replicating, and that some are, that there would have been similar to today, some that are, like bacteria or viruses that would infect other cells, that you would have had this competition, this fighting that happens at the single cellular level, and that some of those elements that are used from some of those organisms would then end up being shared between them and incorporated by some of them because they're using essentially genetic material to make proteins, right? So we know that kind of transfer happens across types of organisms.
Yeah, and I looked way back, and if you have a hydrophobic alpha helix in a protein, basically, it's something that pops up in a protein randomly very easily. Yes, if you have one near the cell membrane, even near that lipid bilayer, it is thermodynamically inclined to flip into that bilayer.
Yep.
So I mean that you didn't need you didn't need an endoplasmic reticulum and the SRPs or any of that stuff to stick those things in there. They automatically end up filtering into the membrane, and when they do, 70% of all proteins form multimers. They will stick to each other to some degree, to varying degrees, right? And when they're in the lipid bilayer, they're actually floating around. It's like a liquid, and it's got little bobby corks in them, and they float around. And if there's enough of them in there, they will attach, and you've got the beginning of a membrane. So I mean, if you look way back 3.5 billion years ago, that is where it all started, and that's where these membrane channels started.
Right.
And then they become useful. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that he was going on about multimeric proteins and how, they can't stick together unless God designed them to stick together. 70% of them are sticky.
Of course they are.
Sticky.
Yes. And that, take the potassium ion channel, which tends to form a tetrameric protein, right? So one of the duplicates the main core protein 4 times, and that makes up a channel. So you're basically reusing the same part 4 times to make up a single channel, and then there's going to be a pore in the middle. But if you compare any of them, you see that they're different. So how does that even come up? Like, was someone engineering that? No. Like, what you find is that there isn't like a single potassium ion channel, that mutations can come in, and then sometimes they get used for other things. And so now, instead of saying like a single pore potassium ion channel, we do have a family of them that are 2 pore potassium ion channels, or that they actually are regulate calcium input, even though they're potassium ion channels, right? Like, I don't know. It's
I deconverted, man. Oh, I know.
So it's those channels like potassium and calcium that that my doctor gives me channel blockers for, like for blood pressure control and things like that. Okay,
they're trying to mess with God's given design.
I know.
Yes, Jesus made those.
Yeah. Jesus made those, and we should not tamper with them. If I have a stroke, it's God's will.
It is. Okay, I got another unlabeled bookmark. I'm not sure what this one is.
We would not have. I shudder to think, if we did not have Michael Faraday or someone like him, we would not have the modern day. Without Faraday, there is no modern day.
Oh, I thought
because
that was without Faraday, there is no modern day. I don't know why.
Nice. That sounds like you could put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, we should put that on a T-shirt. Okay, 2647. Not sure what.
Accepting evolutionary theory. So that tells me it's more like religion than science. But you cannot have the modern day if you reject electromagnetic theory.
Okay, this whole thing about faith and stuff like that. Now my take on faith is a natural function of the human brain. That basically you don't figure everything out every time you take a step or every time you go pick up a cup and try to take a drink or any of that. You have faith. And the reason you have faith is because you have prior knowledge.
Sure.
Now, is he saying that faith in God has no evidence, no prior knowledge, nothing? He just one day decided to have faith in God? I mean, is he saying faith is a bad thing? I mean, I have faith in evolutionary biology. And I have no problem when they say you have faith. It's like, yeah, I do. I have faith because I did a lot of reading.
Because I wouldn't say that's faith, right? Faith is belief in something despite the evidence.
Yeah, there's right. But then
because I think I see what you're saying. Like, okay, if I pick up a cup, that water, it's going to hold water, and I have faith, I guess, because I'm not going to do a scientific test to make sure that my cup holds water. I'm just going to assume, okay, yep, that's how.
Well, here's the thing: work. If you were to criticize their religion as faith, as having belief in something that is not evident, right? They will go back and they'll tell you about pistos or whatever. What the hell is going on here?
It went backwards. It looks like.
Why is this stopping? They'll tell you about faith as I think the Greek word or something is pistos or something.
Pistos, which means trust or belief.
It means trust, and trust, we get from knowledge, right? So they will push back on you and say, "Oh no, faith is not just blind belief." Well, okay, then why are you using it on evolutionary biology like it is blind belief? Because it's not, right?
See, that's an evangelical equivocation on the definition of faith.
That's what I was.
You have to look.
That up. Yeah.
Once again, history is important, which you have to look at the entire context of the idea of faith in Christianity throughout the centuries. And this idea of faith equal trust, just like sitting in a chair or flying in an airplane, it is really more or less an evangelical apologetic equivocation of the idea.
Whenever they do that type of thing, it's to me, it's like they're saying, "Well, I'm really stupid because I have faith in this, so I'm bringing you to my level, and you're really stupid too." Like it's like that. That's basically what they're saying, So it's
well, if I'm stupid, so are you. What about you?
Yeah, right.
Evolution's no better than religion, right?
Yeah,
I get that's what he's.
They always bring it. They try to bring it to their level.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so now he brings up this article, Michael Faraday's Christian faith influenced his science. And this is a real thoughtful piece on the history of Michael Faraday's personal life and how he was like he belonged to some Christian sect where they didn't really believe in excess. They lived very simply and stuff like that. And he was also a very, very careful scientist. And this whole article is about that. But here's what Sal says about it. I thought this was kind of cute.
This is a mostly good article, except the last 2 or 3 paragraphs. So I'm going to skip the last 2 or 3.
He doesn't like the last 2 or 3 paragraphs of this article. And so, I was curious. So I went and looked it up. And let's see, the last 2 or 3 paragraphs. If I had OBS working, I would already have this showing, but they're called the Sandemonians. That's what he belonged to, the Sandemonians. Michael Faraday belonged to that religious sect. And the last 2 or 3 paragraphs, the one he didn't like is, so why did he quote this passage in his lecture? It seems to me that in his quest for excellence in all things, including public education, Faraday had already learned the art of how to inspire an audience with a good turn of phrase. And so he used a partial quote from Romans to inspire his audience. His own guidance was from a more reasoned, complex, and philosophical reading of the Bible. Now, he used this quote, let's see, what is it? For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. And because he was known to quote this one in public, there is an enigma. Firstly, in his quotation, Faraday left off the final line, and the final line is so that people are without excuse. Secondly, the context of this passage gives it a totally different meaning. So anyway, he's talking about the reason Sal didn't like this is because this is a historical understanding of what Faraday got out of that passage, which was not the biblical intent of the passage. And then in conclusion, Faraday's life and work shows that it is not only possible, but beneficial and inspirational that men and women of God can also be effective men and women of science within our society. In Faraday's words, there is no conflict. And that is exactly what Sal Cordova is not doing. He is not leaving us without conflict. He's going against science. In fact, the entire field of evolutionary so that's why he didn't like the last few paragraphs.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about him and his bullshit.
Yes.
Not Faraday, who
That's
saw
obvious.
no contradiction, no conflict, right? Kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And it's really cool how in his own videos he manages to shoot himself in the foot so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that he can get out of bed in the morning.
Well, there was, and you probably missed this or you didn't bookmark it, but there was a part earlier, and I don't know the timestamp because I didn't bother, but earlier he was also talking about, because he's trying to draw this contrast of electromagnetism and evolutionary biology, but then he also takes a little aside to talk about the limits of what we understand about how exactly electromagnetism works. He was talking about how it works in 99% of cases that these models work. And I'm like, dude, that's also true for evolution. And you're talking about like the 1% where we don't fully understand exactly how it works.
Right.
And that somehow just discounts all of evolution or all of biology. You're doing the same thing. it's just, you know, except that you give them the allowance of like, yeah, okay, I guess we don't understand how electromagnetism works on the quantum level. But like, that's the whole point. That is what current physicists are working on, and they debate about and they argue about because they don't understand exactly how it works. And I suppose the same can be true for abiogenesis and last universal common ancestor. It's the same thing. Like, it's active research. We're trying to understand it, and he gives them a pass, which is that's what's so hilarious about the whole thing. Is it? Oh, you know, it works 99% of the time, but the 1% of the time, you know, I guess we'll just not pay attention to that. And so therefore electromagnetism is, we're going to hold this on a pedestal because I don't know, because I guess Faraday drew upon his religious beliefs or whatever.
Yeah, he's looking for every religious scientist he can and saying, "Oh man, he's great, he's the best."
Right.
He's a real scientist.
And the other thing is like, okay, if you apply physics to the boiling surface of the sun, trying to predict when there's going to be a solar storm, right? There's no way that we can do that today, even though we know the mechanisms and we know the physics and the electromagnetism in the sun. Just like he says, we have mathematical equations for all of those things. We do so. It's the same as biology. We know the mechanisms, and we have the equations, and we have a ton of, you know, mathematics that can tell us how things work today, right? Like, but we cannot predict what's going to happen in the near future because the mathematics is too complex. So he's complaining that we can't tell him like every single blow about how a protein evolved.
Right.
It's the same as complaining that we can't predict when the next solar storm is going to be. So I mean, so physics is right down there with phrenology, obviously.
It is, clearly.
Yeah, it is, clearly. Okay, I got another few books.
Now, there's a question that Deconverted Man has for Chris. So why don't you handle that, Chris?
Yeah, let's see. If you were designing humans or whatever, what changes would you make? If I were designing humans, let's see. That's an odd question because humans aren't designed. So, but if I could, I don't know. I mean, lasers on our heads to hunt.
Yeah.
What else? I would like to do echolocation. That would be cool.
Yes.
So like big old ears, and then we can like echolocate through like, so if it's dark outside, I can do that.
I would eliminate sex. I would make them all one gender, and I reproduce by budding.
See, so I would do it differently. I would add sort of like how salmon, or no, sorry, not salmon. Some of the cichlid fishes, the Astilopia bertoni cichlid fish, they have a different morph. So males who who are dominant have a certain sort of coloration, and they will have a harem. So they can have multiple females that they can sort of hold on to, and then you have subordinate males who actually adopt a female sort of phenotype, and then they have sneaker males, and then they can come in and actually try to get the occasional reproduction with a female. So I would go for an evolutionary stable strategy with males. I would take the chads and the incels, and I would just start breeding them separately so that we can emphasize more and more chads so that they become a certain sort of phenotype, but then also allow incels to sort of sneak in and get the occasional reproduction. So those are some of the things that I would do. Yeah,
I would make it to where we can inhale and just get our food from carbon dioxide, since we love to make so much of it.
That's a good idea.
Then, of course, we're gonna wish we could adjust ourselves to where we can survive in 120-degree heat, because it seems we're going that direction.
We're gonna need it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, I'd fix the back. I'd fix the human back, so it didn't hurt all the time.
That's a good. That would be a good one.
There you go.
Now I have a question for you, Chris. That's unrelated to our evolutionary topic, but you did a review of the presentation of Neuralink by Elon Musk on your channel just recently.
Yes.
Can you give us a summary of your thoughts about it? Is it like a big fraud, or do you think there are good things to come from it?
I would not call it a fraud. There are real scientists involved with Neuralink, and they are doing real neuroscience. it's not like that they have invented this technology. This is work that has been around for some time. So basically, what Neuralink allows for researchers to do is to now record from or stimulate upwards of a few thousand neurons from a single sort of chip that can be implanted into the skull. Now, we've been able to do that for some time. So those are called multi-unit electrodes, and you can do a single one or you can do multiple. And so Neuralink has taken the stab at like, okay, we're going to do multiple implants within the head attached to a single chip. Now, some of the technology that they have worked on actually is really impressive. They've made it so that it's a Bluetooth device that can be read up to like 5 to 10 meters away, I think, just like a standard Bluetooth device. And they've designed it so that it basically is the thickness of the human skull, so that they can sort of drill out a hole in the skull and then put the device down and then sew up the skin so that it's flat. You don't even have a bump on, say, like wherever they implant it. So some of it's pretty impressive, but the way Elon talks about it is way too far of like saying that it's somehow going to cure all Alzheimer's or autism.
Yeah, and
I
it'll
don't
be
see
ready
how
in
that
6
works at all.
months.
Yeah, yeah. So he says they're doing human clinical trials within 6 months. I also, Elon's notorious for creating and promulgating timelines that never seem to come to fruition, right? Like it was 10 years ago when he said we would have men on Mars, but we don't. So yeah, I don't know if we'll see human trials starting in 6 months, but it's not crazy technology. It is, and it's not all hype. There's definitely certain things that I think that it could be used for, especially for, say, driving robotic prosthetics, as well as like assisting people who have quadriplegia, so they don't have use of their arms and legs, and also potentially for people who have lost their vision, and that you might be able to bypass that by using this kind of device that would then allow for information hitting a camera to then sort of activate the visual cortex. Like, so but like the idea that like Elon started off the presentation talking about that, this might allow us to interact with an artificial intelligence if it's benevolent, or fight against a malevolent artificial intelligence. And I was like, what are you talking
what
about?
the hell? Yeah.
How does that even work with this? Like, this is not, no. So,
What I would want is
He spent $44 billion on Twitter when he could have dumped some money into that entire project.
Yeah. So, and the only amount of money that's gone into, from what I understand, up to 2019, I mean, it's a lot of money from a scientist's perspective, but it's him and several other investors that have put up around $200 million, which that's a lot of money for sure, from a scientist's perspective, but that's like nothing compared to what he paid for Twitter. So
yeah. What I would use that for is I would get an implant so that I can locate my car keys and my Apple remote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you potentially could do that, I think, with the implant. Of course, you could also use your iPhone. But
with the right chip, the chip could be your car keys and your remote.
Well, like my son with his Tesla, he just walks up to it and hello, Dylan. It turns on.
Pretty cool.
It's like, yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. But my Apple remote, I'm always losing that son of a bitch. Apple likes to make everything really tiny. They need to make the fucking remote bigger. Jesus. Stop it, Apple, with the tiny.
See, I like Stupid Hoarder Energy's recommendation here. Yeah, replacing with a color scheme. Red means something's wrong.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, people would stop taking it seriously, though.
Right.
Yeah, they would put off going to the doctor even longer.
Yeah, it's kind of like my grandpa when he stopped taking red lights seriously. He just got used to it. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. There might be a little bit more here. Well, two more things I got. We'll do two more and then we'll just open it up, okay?
Sure.
Okay. What do we got here? I got this one. Don't like that paragraph. This one, the creator. I love this one.
Poke at the evolutionists. He had said the creator governs his material works The creator governs his material works.
Okay. So it says the creator governs his material works by definite laws resulting from the forces impressed on matter. Now, that is where basically, what do they call them? Old Earth, evolutionary, theistic evolutionists, right? They will say that God built the universe at the Big Bang in such a way that all of this happened. And they have absolutely no conflict with science at all. And in fact, I think that's a position of billions of Christians.
Mhm.
And then we have the creationists. What are there? A million of them at the most, or something. And they got to create this big fucking problem for us,
Right.
But we got to do YouTube streams about them. Anyway, I love the creator.
The creator.
Yeah, he picks the one statement that is absolutely non-scientific.
And he doesn't complete it because the
Yeah.
creator governs his material works by definite laws resulting from the forces impressed on matter. It doesn't say anything about creating humans with a miracle or anything. It's just, he misses
Yeah.
it. The laws of nature, as we understand them, are the foundations of knowledge of natural things. The natural works of God can never, by any possibility, come into contradiction with the higher things that belong to our future existence. And mathematics offers only a limited training for the mind, since it deals with logical relationships and not with the behavior of physical objects in the world. That's an interesting comment.
Yeah, I actually can appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he just didn't read the whole thing.
Right.
He only gets the parts he cares about. Anyway, well, then there's the other video. I don't know. I got a whole bunch of bookmarks on that one.
Mhm.
Real quick, let me recommend a book that there was a physicist on Maya Atkinson's live stream last night. Tapioca. I can't remember his username. It's Tapioca something. He has a PhD in physics, and he recommended a book called Quantum Physics for Poets, which is a good layperson's introduction to the field of quantum mechanics or whatever. And reading what that quote from Faraday kind of reminded me of it, because that's where you take your statements and take it out of the science speak realm, and you start adding, literary flourishes like the creator has done this, and I think books like that or writings like that are appropriate, but you have to realize those are not scientific statements. They're kind of, I guess you would call those, when they're on the edge.
Philosophical,
Yeah.
or yes,
but they're not scientific.
No.
And so they shouldn't be discussed as scientific statements. And that's what Sal's doing. And he's saying, he said something science-like, but it's not a science statement.
Right. Oh, we got Kitty.
Oh, my kitty is in the he's at the vet right now getting neutered. I'm really worried about him. And so is Loki. Loki is just absolutely. Oh, this is Thor. Loki is ecstatic that Snack is gone. He thinks I sent him to Abu Dhabi, but no, he's coming back. They're going to be calling me here after 2:00 to let me know the surgery. But it's like having my kid in surgery. I mean, I'm like so attached.
Gotta worry. Sure.
Right. Anyway, there was another little topic, but I think it requires its own stream, and that's the quantum brain.
Oh, okay.
The quantum brain papers that have come out.
No, I have not followed it closely. If you want to, we could do it again some other time. If you want to send me a couple links to read, I'd be happy to do that. I have some thoughts.
And Sabine Hassenfelder did she is of the same opinion I am. And it also goes to Dr. Ben Golt. He does this thing on talons. And logical, plausible, probable John Maddox found a paper by Dr. Ben Golt that basically talks about how in each one of these molecules there's 13 bits of information. and you have thousands of them at the synaptic junctions, right?
Sure.
I think on the dendrite is where they have the most effect. And so Dr. Ben Gold kind of was implying that this would give the mind more memory or more information. And of course, the creationists and the religious nutcakes run with that and try to. And then the other thing is a quantum brain. And anyway, it's a whole topic we got to discuss, and we got to get Midnight in here because Athena. He is constantly sending me these articles because he really wants the brain to be quantum. Want to be a quantum computer. And my question to all of these people is, why do you want that? What do you think it's going to get us, basically? Because when you look at, I don't know.
May I put myself out on the limb here?
Go ahead.
I think Midnight is like a lot of people, even though they may not be theists or whatever. Quantum is the same, variable, insert placeholder that God is for creationists or intelligent designers. And I think that's what's going on with the whole idea of a quantum brain. Well, that quantum notion is a stand-in for anything we don't understand about the brain or the consciousness or mind and matter, that little interaction.
There was a time when we thought that the brain couldn't represent the things that we feel that it represents, and we were looking for how can neurons do that? Even 100 billion of them, how could 100 billion of them do it? But we no longer think that in neuroscience and cognitive neuroscience. We have the complexity of those 100 billion neurons is more than enough to do this thing. And the problem comes from a philosophical problem called representationalism, but we'll get into that on a separate stream.
In fact, if I could share real quick, super cool paper a student showed me. Let me bring up present.
I want to mention, Andrew, I do have bookmarks for that stream, and I did see your appearance on Little Peepee's channel. We call him Little Peepee, logical plausible. Yeah, Little Peepee. Do you know John Maddox? Do you know of him? Has he attacked you? He hasn't attacked you yet.
John, no, that doesn't ring any bells.
He will. He'll come on your radar.
Okay, good.
What's up with him? He hasn't had anything on his channel for quite a while, right?
He's been busy. I think probably working very hard to support himself. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I've got a screen I can share. If you want to pop it up, I think you have to do it.
I do want to pop that.
Here we are. So this is a paper published just recently in Neuron. In vitro neurons learn and exhibit sentience when embodied in a simulated game world.
Wow.
So basically what they've done here, and I'm going to do a stream on this, but this is their graphic abstract. So you can grow neurons in a dish. And so they arrange these neurons in sort of a way that allow them to interact in a certain way. And they are getting feedback from looking at a game state, which is Pong. And so there's input to this neural network, and then it evaluates what's happening on screen and then controls one of the paddles to move it so that it can play Pong. And these are just neurons growing in a dish. And we're only talking about a few thousand neurons here doing this. Yeah. So, and then it walks through what it's doing. So this is what the chip looks like with neurons growing on it. And
you pop that link in private chat. So I can put it in the description.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So it's a fantastic paper. It's a bit beyond the stuff that I know, but here we can even watch it play Pong here. This is just the evaluation. Yeah, and then this is the Pong happening here.
We have Midnight in the side chat demanding to get on.
Nope, we're going to do that topic later. I think we're going to end the stream shortly because I have kitty problems coming up.
I've got.
That's right. That's right.
And Dr. Thompson probably has to go.
And this is evaluating action potentials on the neurons growing on this dish.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, this isn't science.
Self organizing. Okay, that's self organizing. That's
Yes.
not a miracle.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, pretty cool.
So, and then eventually, so now it's controlling. So this is now after it's undergone training, and now the Pong paddle's under the control of the activity that's happening within the dish.
Yep.
And allowing it to actually play Pong.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Pretty neat. If you
Yeah.
put a link to that, I'll put it in the
For sure.
So anyway, I'm going to try to do more streams this week. I have been crazy busy. Well, busy in a wonderfully relaxing way. I've been enjoying my life, and I've just needed to do fewer streams. And I've been reading papers. I'm working on Dr. Ben Golt's latest papers on talons and synapses and dendrites, and how he thinks they interplay. And it's a very, very difficult field to study. So I'm doing that and enjoying my life, and probably going to be doing less streams, but I will certainly try to do more because I'm bleeding subscribers. We lost 9 subscribers since I went on vacation. So I'm just taking it easy. At some point, I'll probably get back to the weather report. I apologize to everybody who who counts on us as a gathering place. But okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the quantum brain, and we're going to talk about brains and representationalism, and we're going to argue at midnight and try to find out why midnight is so excited about quantum brains and why Roger, I triggered Scott. He's part zombie.
I figure I'm headed that way anyway. So
That's right.
Yeah, and we got to find out. We got to find out. Oh, did you put it in public chat?
I did. Yes. Do you want it in the private chat? I can do that too.
I missed it when it went public.
Here we go. I got it. It's also in private.
Got it. Okay, I'll put that in there. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I think we can end this one for now. Go and deal with my kitty, my poor kitty. He's going to be so upset.
Good deal.
He was so upset when I brought him. I had to drive quite a ways to the vet clinic, and he was meowing and meowing just constantly. It's horrible. He doesn't have a lot of adversity in his life.
Well, he also probably smells the anxiety at the vets and stuff too.
Yeah,
so.
my anxiety over bringing him in for surgery. My little baby. Amen.
Yeah, it's hard to. It's first time I sent Gibbs in to get snipped. Well, the only time. First time I actually had to take him to the vet for something was real nerve-wracking for me. Although, you know, as soon as they opened the door, you know, a couple of days later to let him out, he just kind of hopped over to me. Didn't even act like he was in pain.
Yeah.
But that whole time, I was just nothing but worried about him.
Yeah, and then they had me fill out this form, and at the bottom of the form, there's a little question: are you willing to pay $100 extra if we have to resuscitate your cat from cardiac arrest? And I'm like, I held it up and I said, you better, you damn well better resuscitate my kitty. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like,
that's an add-on charge.
Yeah, that really calmed me down, man. When I saw that, it's like, what do you mean his heart's going to stop? They said, oh, no, it's really rare. Like, it goddamn well better be rare.
Well, you know, it's just like any kind of anesthesia you take. There's a chance that you just won't awaken from it. And people have died, but you know, just because of their reaction to the anesthesia.
Thank you for that, Scott. Thank you. You just made my day.
Yeah, I've never been a great bedside manner person because I tend to want to share my knowledge more than I want to make people feel better, and I'm real sorry about that.
Okay, I'm gonna go pace.
All right,
guys, we're gonna end the stream.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, goodbye, cruel world.